Hi guys, it's Miss Nelson. I just put together this little video to kind of walk you through how to get all of your research into a well-organized essay outline that I want you guys to do today since I'm not going to be here. This little video is just going to explain it all to you, and I'll also have this slideshow in Google Classroom so you can refer back to it anytime you want. How do you go from this awesome little evidence tracker with all your cool citations to this outline? Here's what you need to think about. Number one, you have to determine importance. Which citations that you have best show your main ideas? You want to choose three that best illustrate how your society functions. So I had to go back through and determine importance for myself. So you can see on my articles with my research, I was starring, right? Do you see all these stars right here? Here's a star over here. Here's a star here. Here's a star here. Here's a star here. I was going through and thinking about all of those different things that I wanted to include in the actual essay. So I was weeding through and deciding which ones I thought were the most important. So you can see, again, like that's what I've been doing here. And for my religion part, I did the same thing. Like I think I really need to explain what the Quran is, like that it's the Holy Land, and they use the religious doctrine as how they go about everyday life. Same with women's rights. When I went through here, I think it's important to include what I found out about the male guardianship system, about what the law says about gender equality, and how things are going there. So I went through for myself and I determined what I thought was most important. That's the first step. Okay. After you've done that, then you got to monitor for meaning for your audience. So, how will you organize your citations? What makes sense to your reader when you put this paragraph together? So, which order should you go in for each main idea? So, I went back through and now notice you can see that I've numbered them. So, for the first main idea, which was the government, I was thinking about okay, what makes sense to start with? I found all these different citations. Where should I begin? How will other people understand how this government works? I thought it would make sense to start with highlighting that it's a monarchy, and I found out all sorts of things about how this king has all sorts of different titles. He's also considered like the custodian of these religious holy sites. So I thought I could dive into all the different titles that he has, and then talking about how like religion and society kind of combine to 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 drive how the whole society functions together, and talking about how the Constitution is this religious doctrine, and so like that's where their laws come from. And then over here you guys can see, look at how messy my notes are. I found another source and I added it down here, and I was writing on the side. I'm curious what you guys thought of this process, if you needed more room too. um, but I found this cool. They highlighted these new bylaws in 92 where it talks about how family is like the nucleus of Saudi society. And I mentioned to you guys before about like shame and how you don't want to bring shame upon your family, and that drives a lot of I think the way the society functions and what's in their constitution is all about family. So I wanted to highlight that as well. Notice over here too, as I was going through this, I found that one of my quotes that seemed to go under government really fit more under religion. So you might find the same thing when you're going through your annotations, that some of your material maybe fits in a different other main idea. And that's totally fine. This was meant to be a messy document. The outline is meant to help you kind of organize your thinking, right? So I found my number one for religion was right here, because I knew that religion and government were really close together within this society in particular. So I did that throughout, right? So I had number one religion there, and then I found this one about the religion is always at the uppermost in their minds. And I think that's important to note. Like that's just how the society functions. They're always thinking about it, and then going into detail about how the Quran, this holy doctrine, really is the guideline for everything that they do and how they function in general. So religion really drives all of their decision making. And then same thing with women's rights. I found out it's interesting because it says that according to law, women have equal rights. However, as I was reading more, I found out more about the male guardianship system and how women really are not able to do a lot of things unless they obtain approval from a relative. And then I found that there was a specific verse in the Quran that led them to this. If you see it on my notes, it says, "Men are the protectors of and maintainers of women." And so I feel like I want to start with explaining that they're striving for gender equality, but it really is based on their interpretation of Islam. And so to them, they're thinking that it's fair and equal, but maybe it's really not, because they're really treated like second class citizens and like they're minors. So I think that'll be an interesting way to begin, because that seems to be their intent. Okay, so after that, I've gone through, I've found my top 3 quotes. The next step is to use the skeleton outline to visualize your essay. You have like all of this information, all of these annotations in this research packet. And like you saw, mine is really messy. The whole goal of the outline is to have a nice big picture for what your entire essay is going to be about. So, how are you going to put it all together into a 4 to 5 paragraph essay? So, the goal is to go from this blank document to this. Okay. Notice that I didn't fill out all of it. I'm not expecting you to. It's really shorthand. It's just meant to guide me with seeing how it's all going to go together. Okay. So the first thing I did was, yeah, don't worry about the hook. Don't worry about the background. You can cross that out. The first thing I did was I copied down my thesis statement. And this is a great opportunity for you guys to like recraft it. If it's not exactly how you want it, you can make it better. So here's mine again. Saudi Arabia's society is different than our own because of its government system, use of religion to drive policy, and subservient roles of women in daily life. After that, I got my main ideas, right? I want to stay in that same order, but maybe you find that it makes more sense for your reader when you're putting it together and you're monitoring for meaning. Maybe it makes more sense to start in a different order than what you intended, and you could switch that around here. After that, I went through and I shorthanded my citations. So I made notes to myself of what I wanted to say and why. So I was like, okay, I'm going to include that quote I had about the monarchy and how it's a monarchy, and talk about the king's roles and his many titles. And then I'm going to go down and mention that the Quran is the constitution, and how a lot of it is that it provides like social control. And that's what's cut off right there. It says social control. And then include the new bylaws about the family as the nucleus of Saudi society, and how, and then I could connect it back to like the king, and how most of the people in his court and who serve on different committees are members of his family. So like relate it back to family is really central in how the government runs and how this country runs. And then I'm going to do that same process for every single one. So I'm just shorthanding it. I'm having you keep, oh, there's the bell, even though it's just me here. I'm having you keep your research packet with you, because you're going to need to be able to cite it and say where all of your information is coming from. So it's good that you have that there. But this is just meant to be like a sketch of the overall picture. What's happening in your first paragraph? What's happening in your body paragraphs, every single one? And what's happening in your last one? So hopefully this just gives you an overall plan where you can visualize where you are going and get there well. So happy writing, you guys. Happy getting organized. Work hard, make yourselves proud. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.